job. If the first thing that jumps to mind when a recruiter calls you is, what do I do? What do I say? What do? You should be excited, like, whoa, this person saw my resume, and give the person energy. And that recruiter will leave that phone call and say, I would be insane if I don't offer Fatima a chance to come for an interview. But when you're jittery and shaky and then they call someone with energy, they won't call you back because you're already scared. That's why we say preparation. Personally, the reason we have weekly interview preps is because we don't like ad hoc interview preps. Say, for example, they've called you tomorrow, they called you today and say, oh, Fatima, come for an interview tomorrow. And tonight, you're rushing and say, I'm tired, I want to interview prep. That never works. That's why we say every day leading up to the time that you get called is an opportunity for you to improve your skills. The best time to come for interview prep is when you don't actually have an interview in the pipeline because you're not nervous, you're building your skills gradually. When that call comes, you know, whoa, I've been preparing, I'm ready, whatever it is, bring it on. I've got this. That's the energy, not, oh, they've called me, you know, like all shaky and losing your words and throwing all the filler crazy words. All those things.
Yeah. I mean, when you get called, it should, yeah, you can have that nerves, right? That's fine. But remember, it should serve as a big validation for you that, oh my God, yeah, they called me for this job out of the multitude. So show some excitement, guys. Rather than allow self-doubt, there has to be a good measure of self-doubt, self-belief, right? You like fear. I meant to say fear, not self-doubt. Like nerves and self-belief.
Yeah.
Basically, if something you're doing, like we always say, does not scare you, it's not big enough, this should scare you. I don't expect you guys going on this journey not to be nervous, right? So that is fine. Everybody that has gone through the program or anything in life that you're doing that is big definitely comes with fear. Do you think we don't have fears? We do different things that are not BA things in our own life that terrifies. Even running this company, I always say, like, there's some things that we do that we don't know how to do. We're clueless. What do? We invest time to investigate, find people that can help, get help, get skill, get knowledge. Trust, we are not robots. We get it, right? We also have our own fears. It might not be in BA, whatever, but that's not all about life, right? So there are things that scare us, which is fine. If I'm not like challenged and looking to learn something new in a month, like I always say, if I go into a week and something does not scare me, then I'm sure that it's just going to be a flat week. So we need to have that mentality. Like every week, I must have something I'm chasing that I know that, oh, if this thing does not, if this thing does not happen, then I'm like it's not good. It's not going to be all good. But if I go into a week and I'm like, no worries in the world, no expectation, no nerves, nothing, it will just be a flat week. So yeah, the nerves are fine, but if you get calls for interview or you're already getting interviews, the nerves should come and go. Remember, your self-belief should then kick in after a few minutes, right? And the more you build your knowledge, the more you'll be able to believe more in yourself. The more you do what you say we should do, like work with your team and gain experience and build a product, the more you will enforce it like, yes, I'm a business analyst. So I mean, like, please, yeah, you can be nervous, that's fine, but let's not overwhelm ourselves because good things are coming. Some of you are nervous to apply because you don't want the positive calls to come. Really? Yeah.
Fatima, when you even said senior BA, I thought you wanted to say director of.
Okay, I think
Director, yeah.
there are multiple people. They're like top people that are going to be there. And I think there's a senior BA. I don't know who the other people
Fatima,
are.
I'm sorry, but who is this person? Is this person on this team? In your team, rather?
Wow, so imagine now they are coding They are even
No,
saying this
it's not
person
coding.
to
So this is
us.
what happened. No, this is what happened, right? Somebody called someone that's not even on this team for an interview, and then the person told the guy that he has someone that's a BA and also needs a job. So it was like, okay, send your CV. So it's all these recruiters. I don't know. I
Okay,
think
so I know it's the unions. I know. So basically, where is the person now?
Who is the
it just happened today, actually, this afternoon.
So
So the person,
why is Mark freaking out?
who is Mark?
Not
Who are
Mark.
you think I don't
the
know
person
anything about?
It's not Mark.
What?
I think maybe I know the person. I probably missed a call from the person this afternoon.
It's not Mark.
No, it's not.
Okay. So you guys are
The person on this call.
Let me check. I don't know.
so you guys are coding now. It's not in the person. You better
understand? Like, why are we using the person? Like, it shouldn't person want to prepare and like get inside?
Like,
I don't get
It's
it.
real, but I mean, I feel like it has to be the person saying
yeah,
it
I
out.
understand, but yeah, if the person is on the call, I mean, you should be sharing this and getting help, and that's one thing that I'm seeing happen, which is shocking. That some people are going for interviews
We're
and
not even aware.
they don't want to
No,
be.
it's just today it happened. So obviously the person will reach out to let you know. It
Yeah, I
just
know. I'm talking to somebody with my side eye on this call. I've been going for interviews. I have no idea, and then
Really?
I'm hearing after the fact. But yes, that is what happens when you don't want, like you don't. So what that means is you don't want to get guidance or you don't want to be accountable because of course Noah, Tayo, and Tosi will ask you for recording. Will ask you for see like if you don't get feedback on something, how do you improve it? To be honest, think about it. Think about it. Especially something you're building towards, you're not yet an expert in. Like, I mean, I will leverage if I have somebody now that will say that, hey, now here is how you be making $1 million every single month. It seems you, I'll coach you, I'll mentor you, but you think I'll not go and be living with that person? Like seriously. And then we're here at least. No, there's no way you send us message and will not be responsible to reply you. You need to leverage that. You really need to. Because at the core of what we are doing, we want to replicate ourselves so that you come and coach people and mentor them and share your story that will inspire generation. That is what we are about. Maybe I need to reinforce it. Like that is really what we're about. So no matter what, I'm sick, I'm happy, I'm not happy, I'm sad, I'm quarreling with my wife, whatever. I see a message from you guys, everything shift. Everything shift so that we can get the result. Please, we are very passionate about it. We don't want slow. So you don't need to have any fear. No matter what happens, right? You will learn from it and you have us. At least believe that we are an expert. There's evidence that we are an expert. I'm not an expert in a lot of things, but when it comes to this, myself, Tosin, Tayo, we are experts. So believe that you have an expert. I'll work with you one-on-one. If you want to call me 2 a.m., like you're free to do that. As long as we are talking about this subject, right? So I'm happy to get up and, that's how much, we want to help and make sure you achieve this. So please, I don't want to see coding or I don't want to see somebody attending interview and like we're not even aware. So please, we want to see a change. All right. So today we're going to change a few things just to set context. I think that you've all gotten this interview prep toolkit. So I just want us to chat a bit more about it. And going forward, we would be requiring all of you to send us your tell me about myself question every other day. So that's going to be 3 times a week till we get bored and we feel, yes, you've nailed it. Because what that would do for you basically is that when you then get called, you've said it so much that it is the same thing you need. Because typically when they call you, oh, Fatima, oh, Rukayat, you applied for this job, blah 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 blah. Tell us about, or tell me about your experience. It's really your project. Tell me about yourself that you used to win that conversation. So the more you do that, the better your story will become, and the more confident, the stronger your confidence and your self-belief, because then you've said these things so much that it's becoming like part of you, and that's how you actually gain mastery. So we don't want you to be telling a story that you don't also believe in. It's important that we all get to that point where we've talked about like everybody you meet, basically your introduction like going forward should be your tell me about, what did they say, tell me about yourself. Right, I think that's the question. Right, so like they should see you like you're crazy about this thing so much. If people around you don't know that you're a BA right now, then you're doing something wrong, to be honest. Just to be honest with you. If you're not obsessed, like everything you do is just about BA, then you're not increasing the tempo. So today we're not going to intervene you in that sense. We just want to set a bit of context because over the couple of interviews we've done so far, and I think that majority or everybody have had a go at least once, we've seen a gap which is focused around your project ideas. Now, why is this important? Like everything, just think about it. If you're hired, you're going to work on a project. Whatever your skill level is, whatever 1 year experience, 2 years, 1 month, 10 years, you're still going to work on project. And your understanding of your own project, every part of that project, would help you again display that mastery, that competence that is required for you to secure a job. So we've seen it time and time again. A lot of people don't just know how to craft out that story, and it's becoming a problem that we then need to achieve. I think the last time, 2 weeks ago, Tosin had a go and really gave a lot of useful perspective, right, on particularly health health project, right, healthcare in that domain, basically gaining a lot of giving a lot of perspective in that domain. So today it's going to be a mix of different industry. Majority of these projects are, again, they are not perfect, so you can tailor them to what you're really comfortable um you know talking about in interviews or in any conversation. So the point here is that do not use this guide in verbatim. Don't go here and try to cram it. And that's why I want to take my time to actually explain and give you a bit of context about this project, so it will help you appreciate it more and see how you can actually then tailor it to your own particular scenario and how you can talk about it in interviews. So let's get started. You already know about this guide, so it's a Word document, very wordy, so I'm not going to bore you with so many things. These are contexts that you already have. You already know that tech is the thing, and then in every sector, basically, you find some form of technology. I mean, tech is everywhere. So whether you are in, healthcare, finance, sales, procurement, logistic, whatever, you see that they use technology. And that's why we say that your skill in any domain is vitally important. Like there's a story you can tell using your current experience, whatever you feel you're doing today. you can definitely bring a project out of that. And I'm hoping that at the end of this session, you'll be able to craft out that story in your own context and really navigate through that. So for example, today I got a message from one of you, and the job role really is in disability and healthcare sector, right? They really need somebody that has a deeper understanding of how to help people, participants, and people with needs. And I know that a good number of us have experience in that domain. Now, you all will be prime candidate to work in that sector. And I'm happy that at least one of us is targeting that job. Hopefully that works out. So the point of my me saying that is that don't feel like you don't have experience or project that you can leverage. For example, if what you do today is you provide care for a participant, as they call them. Now, to provide that care, you do a few things. You read their care plan. You definitely know how to support that participant. Maybe if they need medication, you know when you need to give them medication. You know when maybe you're making meals for them. You definitely know when to make meals. You know what they are allergic to. So you basically have information about that particular person. Maybe you then log timesheet. You log in their care record or medical record. You know when to call for extra care, or depending on how you take care of that person. The point here is that it is still skills that you can definitely transfer, right, as a business analyst. Do we agree? So I'm not just talking bullocks. Do we agree? Right now, because we're all business analysts on this call, like, do we see any opportunity that what you're currently doing, you can actually transfer and build a story around it? Because I want to get into the pillars of project, so that, again, I don't want you guys to fall into the loop of, oh, we talk about this project today, I need to go and cram it. I need to cram it and pour it. That would not be productive. So I first need to ensure that you understand that whatever you're doing is supported by technology. You can definitely craft out a story around it as a business analyst at this stage. So let's crack on. So I'll focus on the project and really explain a few things. So you already know the importance of project ideas, right? So this is very important for you to demonstrate that you are a professional, right? And that you have actually done something that you can talk about freely. And that's why, again, the Tech Accelerator program is such an important tool for you to leverage. And I hope that we are all engaged on that, because it gives you practical experience that you can talk about. So these ideas would help you bring out that creativity and formulate a story around what you need to deliver. So it would help you build your confidence during interview. You'll be clear, so you're not beating about the bush, right? Or trying to think on the spot. So it will give you ability to convey your thought. Once you follow a structure, you know your project, it will improve your control, right, in interview, because again, you're saying something that is believable. You're not all over the place. And for you as well, your anxiety level will reduce when you're talking about something that you know and you believe. Then you will not have too much nerves. And that's why it's important that you nail your project. So it also demonstrates that you've actually added value to the organization, right? Because that's why they always want to know what is the outcome of the project that you worked on. Like, what was the result? What was the outcome? Yeah. So in your tell me about yourself question and its different variants, like, why did you apply to this role? or what motivated you to apply to this role. You want to really showcase yourself. You want to demonstrate your experience and your competencies, right? So this is a framework that you can use. And this is a structured framework. Again, it is just a guide. It doesn't mean that all your answers you follow this, but if you have a structure in your head, it's easy to navigate. So you start with your introduction, right? You want to tell them, oh, my name is Noah, and I'm a business analyst or a scrum master or a product owner with X number of years, right? With 5 years experience, right? Then you want to talk about things like maybe the domain you've worked in. Oh, I've worked in several sectors, such as healthcare, finance, banking, telecommunication, and what have you. You list that. So when you're even recording or you're telling that story, there's a structure. It's not all over the place. It's like you're pitching yourself to somebody in 2 minutes. And this is another thing I want us to really understand. Our tell me about yourself question should be around 2 minutes, to be honest. Because if you're dragging it and you're not really interesting, there's some people that can actually go 5 minutes and it will feel like 2 minutes genuinely. And they will tell you, oh, you've actually answered 2 of our questions or 3 of our questions. Thank you for that. But some people, they can go 3 minutes and it feels like 15 minutes just because there's no structure, they've dragged it out, there's something about storytelling, right? When you say something about yourself using a storytelling approach, right, it's going to be sweeter to listen. Even if you're spending 5 minutes, it would feel like 2 minutes in reality. They want to listen and learn about you because, again, we emphasize that in Australia is a laid back culture. They really want to know about you as a person before your technique, because averagely all the people coming for interviews will have technical skill. They can do the job to some extent. They can do the job, right? Majority of them. So what will differentiate you from other candidates? So you have to be personable. You have to show that personality. Don't forget about it. Don't make the nerves creep in and then you just forget everything. So in saying that, your introduction should introduce yourself and your role, how many years experience, what domain you've worked in, right? And you give overview about what you've done, the industry, like I said, healthcare, whatever, finance, banking, and then you might mention some project. I know majority of you already get that. You do that well. Mention some project you've worked on, this and that. You've mentioned data migration. Please, no data migration, because I see a lot of you, you say, oh, and data migration. Thank you. And then when we ask you data migration, you're not really sure about your answer. So please, if you want to add data migration, very good, but absolutely be sure about what data migration is. And I think we've actually explained that a lot of times. So you want to give them like an example of your project, right? I've worked on so and so project in different domains, healthcare, but I've worked on transformational project, process improvement project, with several organizations such as banks, or you can mention the name of the company if you want to, right? That's acceptable. Then you want to call out some skills that you have. As a business analyst, I've really developed a mix of soft or technical skills that has helped me throughout my career. So skills such as analytical thinking, problem solving has really been pivotal in my career. So whatever framing you want to use, you just want to talk about your skills, and your strength is important. They need to know like what kind of person are we dealing, what are their skills, and if there's a way you explain that, they will not need to ask you later. It might be part of their question bank. They will not ask you again because you've already mentioned. So call out your skills. That always makes a difference, right? And then in talking about your project, you can add more details in terms of talking about the team composition. Now, again, you have to be very accurate with this, because if you say, because there was an interview from somebody recently and they were like, I work with a team of business analysts. So that can really harm you in your interview if you're not careful, because this question always often gives an indication of two things: if you can actually manage project on your own, and what kind of project you've worked on. Is it just a small project where you've just worked with maybe 2 people, right? Or is it a project that will showcase you like, yes, this person has actually worked on some complex project, and yeah, we're able to trust this person with our work. Also, when you say things like, I've worked with a team of business analysts, if you're not framing that well, maybe like you're a consultancy company and that's the structure, or you're working on a massive piece of project that maybe you're doing big project for building a railway in Melbourne, a lot of people involved, then you should not say you're working with a team of business analysts, please. And I know that it's because some of you want to take your tech accelerator experience and go and dump it for them. Like, yeah, I work with a team of. Please, that does not look good on you, because it showcases like, oh, this person is not really working on their own. They are not able to lead a team. Or if they are working on some complex project, it might give off the vibe of, oh, we're not sure we can entrust this project. This person has always worked with people. If we want to hire one BA to work on our project, then they might not be able to handle that kind of pressure. Do we understand? Like, does this make sense? So team composition is very important. Guys, a good example can be, oh yeah, I've worked on process improvement project where I was a lead BA working with a couple of subject matter experts from finance team, HR, the IT team, and we're also tasked to build product for maybe a finance project or an ERP to help them streamline their process. And you can say I worked with the developer development team of 5 backend developer, 2 front-end developer, 2 QAs, 1 UI designer, 1 solution architect, right? At least that looks good. Than I worked in a team of business analysts with some development team. So that really gives up like, oh, you're just one of those BAs. Are we together? So please understand the team composition. If it's, again, not all projects you'll be working with developer. You can be working on process improvement project and you're just working with other departments, right? You're just collaborating with other departments on that project, like finance, HR, operations, customer service, legal department, compliance. It's not all, as we all know by now, I expect everybody to know, it's not all project that you actually build product, build software. Even some project you might be buying the software. Like we all know, customer off the shelf software is just implementation. So you're not working with developers like directly. For example, when I was working University of Queensland, what was the project? And I think it might be somewhere in this. So the project was about helping them document the current state and future state of their workflow for their policy and procedure guidelines. So all the policy that guides admission, recruitment, remote working, they have lots of policies, right? As you can imagine, it's a big university. So they have lots of policies all over the place. They want a workflow. If you want to develop a new, policy, who do you need to consult? What department? Senate, academic record, IT. So there's a lot of stakeholder, massive stakeholder involved. I was not working with developers. The other part of the project was to implement that document where they will now start to keep all these policies and host it online. So there was a system, I can't remember the name of the system now, but it was a customer off-the-shelf system. They are not building it in the university. They already have a vendor before I joined the project that we were working with to define the requirement, what will work for us in our own context, right? So I have to run workshop with all those people that need those documents stored somewhere. How do you like this document stored? Okay, what kind of approval levels are required for this document? So we can request for customization. Because when you buy something that is custom made already for the market, it might not fit like a glove for your own requirement. You might need some customization. And that's why some of you buy some, you know what you buy, right? And then you add some customization just to give you that personal feel. It's the same thing. When you buy a CTOS application, you definitely want to customize it to your own requirement. If you buy a CRM, it might not work straight out of the box for your own context. So a business analyst will be working with the stakeholders to what, as you all know, gather requirement, understand their requirement, and then you can now, document those requirements and use it as a checklist and engaging tool with the vendor that is providing that system, so that there's no misalignment. You're not giving me fish when I want egg. Are we together? Can't see a lot of people on this call. It looks like I'm in my own world. But please, can I get a response? Can you all turn on your camera so I know that people are on this call? Please.
Yes.
Huh? So does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So not all project has to, if you feel like, oh, in that moment, I can't remember any developer. Remember, not all projects require you to work with developer as a business. Some might be process improvement. Some of them might be transformational project, that you actually don't necessarily need to work with developer. You can just give them an indication of the number of stakeholders that you're collaborating with. Like, for example, when I said, I was working in a university and I was collaborating with stakeholders from IT services, legal compliance, HR, customer care, and the different department, academic department. And I'll give a number like these stakeholders are more than like 500 that have to collaborate and engage. Does that not give like an impression that this was a big project? Are we together? Does it give an impression that it's a big project or a small project?
A big project.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to say. The point of this team composition question, which a lot of people get in their interviews now, is they want to really know, like, are you just working in a small team, or are you working on a fairly sized project? Are you able to manage work on your own, or are you going to need a lot of assistance? So you cannot say that you're a senior BA or you're a business analyst and you've never worked on a project on your own, right? So you can't say that. So it's very important for you to know. So it's very easy. Just have a number. If you want to cram this one, it's fine. Have a number. If you're going to talk about devs, you can say 4 backend, 2 front end, 2 QA or 3 QAs, 1 UI designer, 1 solution architect, right? Who else? Maybe you as a business analyst, right? And then 1 scrum master. That can be a good number. Now, you want to also talk about some of the tools that you've worked with. This is optional. As I said, this is just a guide, right? You know all the tools, so don't need to be overflogging that. Jira, Confluence, Miro. You've seen Miro. I think we've used it together before. Draw.io for documenting flows, right? And then you can, if you want to go deeper, you can talk about how you've used it. Oh, I use Jira for collaboration and product development collaboration with my team, where we put all the product backlog item, we plan the sprint and put all the user stories, epic, all of that in our work item. Confluence for collaborative and documentation within the team, right? Miro for collaboration during workshop, PI planning, things like that. Oh, somebody will just feel like, oh, she also knows PI plan, how to run PI plan. You've already shown a lot of experience just by talking about your tools. So don't just try and list them like, I've worked with Jira, Confluence, Miro, Draw.io. It would be good to just buttress a bit, like I've just done. Oh, I've used Draw.io, Visual, right? Microsoft Visual. They do the same. I hope we all know they do the same thing. I've used Microsoft Visual to actually document process flows, swim lanes, and I think all of you have done that. So talk about the swim lanes you've done in the assessment, right? If you forget about I've done, some of you did CRM, some of you did food order application. Talk about it. It doesn't have to be exactly the project. If you don't, just talk about, give more details. That's my point. Oh, I've drawn a couple of swim lanes for whatever. Just mention it. It shows that, oh, this person used it for blah, 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 blah. It's clear.
Just to add to that, so with the team composition and the tools used, so your number 4 and 5, that is if you're still, after you've given them those value information, like you've done your introduction, like you've talked to them about your years of experience, the domains that you've worked, your core skills that you have, and how that really relates to the job, right? Those are important things. So with your team composition, you may or may not, this is us giving that caveat that you do not necessarily need to tell them about your team composition in your introduction. If that's going to push you to like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, it can get a little bit boring. Again, but it depends on the type of speaker that you are. With those tools used, it has no value if you just say, and I've also used Jira, Confluence, Visio, Miro, that's boring, adds no value to your recruiter, right? So if you're unable to buttress or talk about it within that 90 seconds or 2 minutes, if you want to push it forward a little bit, then you may talk about it afterwards. You can say something like, I'm also proficient at using a lot of tools, which I'll be more than happy to speak about during the course of this interview. Or as we can all agree, visuals are one of the most important tools that a business analyst uses in describing process or whatever it is that we're working on. Very proficient with Visio and other related tools. But as we go along during this interview, I will talk to you about relevant tools that I've used in the course of my career. And just back to the team composition as well, please, as a business analyst, you do not only work with developers or testers or UI UX designers. not all projects require them. You only actually really need them when you're working on software project, when you're building some sort of solution, right? If you're just working on, like Noah said, maybe you're working on improving some processes, or you're working on some reporting project, or you're working on some data project that does not necessarily, where we're not building any software, we're not building any sort of solutions, you're not working with them. If I want to describe my team composition today, and Thurston, you probably can describe your team composition as well. If I were to describe my current team composition, I would say something like, and this is my real life team composition. They say, oh, tell us about the team composition in your last experience. I would say something like, oh, thank you so much. It's actually a very good question that you've asked me. In my team composition, like I previously mentioned, my last project was not a software project. However, I worked on a complex project that involved rebranding all of the bank's collateral because they had just merged with a different bank. But to give you some more context around the people that I worked with, there was a project manager on my project who ensured that we were on time, our schedule was on time with budgeting and resourcing. She managed all of that process. And of course, as myself as a lead business analyst, I ensured that I was able to, gather all of the necessary requirements, because this was quite huge. From a legal and compliance perspective, my project was quite critical. I also worked with a change manager that managed all of the comms on the project. As you can imagine, there was a lot of impact that needed to be done. From a people, process, technology point of view, there were these things that we needed to really ensure that we're capturing all of the operational, impact as well. There was also a business owner on my project. So she cascaded down to the boards and the execs. Of course, I was a program director. I worked with lots of different stakeholders, from procurement down to marketing to product, legal and compliance. I should also add, I had a lot of SMEs on this project who I met on a fortnightly basis, and they were from different respective teams. Thinking about that project, that was actually very complex and interesting, as I would, off the top of my head, I probably had to, interact with about 40 stakeholders on this one, because it cuts across all the different units in the bank. So yeah, this one was a really big one, in relation to, in the context of what we needed to deliver. And it's actually one of my most interesting project that I would say, because as you would imagine, lots of stakeholders means lots of other complexities that you have to deal with. So yeah, that's sort of like a summary of my team composition.
Yeah.
So, just, you can say it, you can make them have a feel of what you did on that project, have a feel of how complex that project was, can magnify things. I have not talked about developer or tester. I don't have a developer on my project, right? I don't currently have a developer because I'm not, again, working on a software project at the moment. So not all projects require your core development team. But because at the heart of all you do, technology is there are some technology components on my project, but they're not my core team. So in the context of an interview, again, I will talk about the testing team that I'm working with. I will talk about the Salesforce team and the digital solutions team and how we work together. Do you understand? So in real life, theory is, oh, I work with developer, Scrum Master, That's more very bookish. In real life, you can work with diverse team. It just depends on how dramatic you want to be during that interview, how you want to you want to use that opportunity to shine, talk about your stakeholder engagement skills. If you like, I even delve into some conflict and bring them back and just laugh about it and joke. So that's trying to provide some context around team composition is very dynamic in an organization. So yeah.
Fatima, thank you, Taya. Fatima, I'm just seeing a question in the chat about the inventory management system and what team composition should actually be on an inventory management project. Again, you don't necessarily have to associate a team composition with a project, right? Company A might be building an inventory management solution, and they will have just about 6 team members, probably maybe 3 developers, 1 tester, a UI UX designer, maybe a BA, right? Company B might be building an inventory management system. They might probably have twice the resource that company A has, 12 team members, right? They might have a product owner, they might have a scrum master, they might have a business analyst, they might have 6 developers with 3 front end, 3 back end, or 4 front end, 2 back end, right? They might have a business analyst, right? So it depends. You can't, you need to play around with it,
Benchmark.
basically. But I think the most important thing is if you're involving core development team, just know that it needs to be logical as well. You can't say you add 4 testers on the team and then you only have 1 developer, right? So you need to apportionate it very well, right? Typically if you have 3 developers on a project, you have 1 tester testing a solution. If you can have 3 developers, maybe if it's a project that rigorous testing needs to occur, they might have 2 testers. It's possible, ratio 3 to 2, right? So it just depends, right? Just depends. So, and like Daya said, on some teams, you don't necessarily even work with software developers, right? On my team, anybody writing code is a data engineer building data pipelines, right? I don't have any software developer on my team, although we have testers on my team, but no software developers, just data engineers mainly, right? And data architects. Yeah, so again, it can be very diverse.
Okay, thank you. So now that we're clear on that, hopefully, so another key thing you want to talk about is project. I think we all agree we need to talk about your project. Now, you don't need to talk about all of your project. So you don't need to, if you have 3 projects, well, it's not time to start to dive into, the actual nitty-gritty of your project. Keep it summarized. And I think that after today, you would get more perspective. So we're going to skip there because of time. But the key thing I want you to know, you want to give them like kind of like you use a gap analysis kind of framework when you're talking about the project. And what do I mean? So think about, why did they start the project? What gap did they have? Right? That will help you define the overview of the project, why they did that project or why they are doing the project. Because if you don't give them that background, like what was the objective of the project, then you just dive into, I worked on a process improvement project where I was a BA, and you're just going to lose them. If you do that, you're just going to lose them. So please think about gap analysis. Like there's definitely a gap that needs to be, or a problem that needs to be resolved before a project starts. Any project, whether process improvement, whether software development, whether enhancement, whether whatever, branding, or there's a gap, there's something that needs to be achieved, or like a need that needs to be achieved, so, or a goal. You want to give them that context. For example, there was an issue with the efficiency of the account opening process, which was difficult for, what was the issue? It was very difficult for customers to actually open an account in good time. And I'm talking about, sometimes it takes as much as days, weeks to actually get an account opened in a bank. So that was the problem at the time. And we needed to work on a process improvement process to streamline the account opening process for the bank, such that there's convenience for the customer to open the account in good time. The SLA defined to be achieved was 48 hours. And they don't need to actually come to the bank. So that also reduces the footprint in the bank, queues, operational headache, staffing efficiency and all of those issues for the bank. So we did that process improvement and optimization project where we built a workflow that allows customers to actually open account from their convenience, right? By just filling the form and submitting their IDs, and then we go through the validation. Within 48 hours, they get their account number sent to them, and then they can come and complete final KPIs of citing of the ID later. You've given them context in like 30 seconds. Now, in my role as a business analyst on that project, I work with diverse stakeholders ranging from legal to account opening team to teller to operations to gather requirements to understand their current pain process, pain point and operations. Then I documented the current state, using if you've not talked about your tool previously, you can chime in that using Microsoft Visio to actually document the current state process. And then working with them using workshop, requirement gathering, surveys, you might say that if you want, right, your elicitation technique, right? Gather information which I refine into requirement, validated that, and then what happened? We're able to define the future state, which is to do the automation of the account opening process. That streamlined the account opening process, ensuring that customers were happier. They could open an account in 48 hours. We had more account open than ever before in the bank. Now I'm talking about the outcome, right? You can talk about the timeline. Oh, this project then ran for like 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, whatever. And then the outcome was we now had more account opening. We had 3,000 more per month after go live of that process. And then you give all the other metrics, right? More customer satisfaction because they could get account opening quicker than ever before. Less operational headache for the bank branches because less footprint to open an account, thereby freeing up resourcing and also saving the bank $2 million. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about my other project as we go along. Bam. Now I've talked about the problem. I talked about a few things I did as a business analyst on that project, right? And I talked about the outcome. Bam. If I was not teaching, I delivered that in 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Is there anybody that does not understand the aim and objective of like why we did this project and what value it provided based on what I've said? Now, this is why I don't like people off camera because I can't even know if people are here or I'm talking to myself, except Fatima, right? It's just like talk to the hand, right? So what I'm saying is, can I get it? Do you guys understand how I've delivered a project, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and just in your own, let's just talk about if you were on the panel, based on what I've said, do you understand why we did this program, what my role was? In just, at least I didn't take 5 minutes to explain that, surely. Do you understand?
Yes.
And that's why we don't
Yes.
want to sweat it.
So for how long should we talk about a project? What's the maximum we should?
So I started, it's relative, right? Like I said, you're an interesting speaker when you know what you're saying. I'm sure when you know what you're saying.
I was gonna ask a question, because like
Let
the
me just
project.
let me just answer Fatima, then I'll allow you so I don't forget. So what I'm saying is that it depends. So Tayo can go 5 minutes and you genuinely would think that you're still like 2 minutes. I might go 5 minutes and they're like, round it up. Do you understand? It really
So you just know
depends.
your strength.
Yeah, exactly, know your strength. And in some things I can go 30 minutes and people want to listen to me, right? So it depends, right? But first of all, you need to know this thing, know how you, like, that's why we say practice that story, that project oftentimes, so that when you're delivering it, it's like so interesting to say, because you know you're not trying to think about what's the next thing I need to say. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Because you've rehearsed it, you know it, you're not cramming it now. You know it, genuinely know it. When you're delivering it, 3 minutes will go by and you feel like, oh yeah, we want to hear more. So that I wouldn't say, oh, do it, but overall, theoretically, your tell me about yourself should be around 2 minutes, 90 seconds ish, right? But we like to give a lot of, I think that if you can deliver something and deliver it well in a storytelling approach, it really doesn't matter the rule of 90 seconds or 2 minutes. As long as you keep engaging, your story makes sense. If I'm trying to explain my project and I'm giving you all this context of why we started the project, what I did, and the outcome, you want to listen, even though you've timed me. You want to hear, oh, there's an outcome. That's the point. And sometimes in doing that, you would have answered so many other questions. So they will allow you just answer. Go on.
Also, Fatima, you need to keep in mind, so obviously with the intro, you cannot possibly get into the nitty-gritty of what you did on that project as a BA, right? So if you wanted to give them a little bit of a teaser, which is the problem statement in that intro, you can. But when it actually gets to, so Fatima, can you tell me about your last project? What did you find most challenging? You have the floor to use the storytelling approach. There's no really time cap to that. Obviously, you're not going to keep going on and on and on, but it depends. Everything is going to depend on your delivery. If I'm listening to you and maybe you started your project with, yeah, so the last project that I worked on, it was a digital banking platform that we were building, and then it was the Scrum team. We always attend the daily stand-up, and then I facilitate the daily stand-up and backlog refinement and sprint planning and sprint retro and da. But on that project, so I worked as a business analyst, and then I would gather the requirement. I like to use interview, workshops, survey, prototype. They're just gonna look at you like, just what did you do and what was the project? Why are you moving from Scrum ceremonies, listing all of the ceremonies, and then coming back to interviews? It doesn't make sense to them. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So when you go that approach, it gets very long. It bores everyone. They don't really understand what you're saying. So if you start from there and then you in after 2 minutes, I still don't understand what the objective of that project was. Someone on the interview is going to make a call and say, "Oh, so thanks, Fatima. Yeah, we
Next
just go
question.
on to the next question now." Or they say, "No, actually, what I was looking for
Yeah.
was this and that." They prompt you and nudge you back, which is where your practice, comes
Yeah.
to. But you start and tell them, "Oh, thank you so much." Well, in relation to my last project, I like to give you some context. Actually, this was at my time, when I was working in the financial services. It's actually, this bank was overseas, and the main problem at that point in time is that we were looking to upgrade, our current third-party system. And I think all of us in the room can really appreciate the fact that when you are provisioning a system from a third-party point of view, there are some clunky processes that can occur. Like in this case, we had a lot of situation where we were very reliant on our third-party partners, for response to problems. We couldn't really fix some of our bugs in real time. There was a lot of operational cost involved as well, which was a massive problem, I can tell you that. But coming on this project, I had this goal, which was to really help them, acquire an independent system that would be owned and controlled by that organization. And now we can all appreciate that there's a lot of process that needs to go into that when it comes to, decommissioning an existing system and actually getting on a new system that is fit for purpose. Then you can then go into so they can understand, oh, there was a problem with the third party system. Fatima worked or came on board to really help them to acquire a system that will be built and owned and controlled by that organization, so they can solve the problem of reliance on third-party partners, to solve issues. They can have more real-time responses, right, when there's a problem with the system. If you go on and engage, they make it like you're talking to your friend. No one
Yeah,
just talks straight. Oh, this was the problem. This was what I did. And then I did it. It's hard to listen to, but this storytelling, you want to tell a story, even when you forget. When oftentimes white people, when they forget something, they say something like, oh, it's just left my brain, I'm sure it will come back. But really, what
yeah,
I'm trying to say is this and that, this and that. They've forgotten that thing, but they've managed it well, and no one will think they forgot because they don't know it. They just think you forgot because you're a human being and something can leave your brain.
of course. Like,
So
let's not make it like, oh, harder than it is. Like real life, if you're even talking about things you can genuinely forget some detail. Yeah, you might have forgotten. If you make it conversational, storytelling, like you're talking to your friend, which is easier said than done, right? We get it, but with practice, it becomes, it becomes the situation. Like practice, and then it makes it easier. So let's go to Bernard. Bernard.
I was just gonna ask the question, like I understand about what was the issue, the end goal, but it's just the part that your role in achieving the
Mhm.
desired outcome. So
So,
could you please go over that again?
so your role, basically, what I've just said is your role as a business analyst, which I'm hoping that we all know, right? You know what you do as a business analyst, right? So it depends on the project. You tailor that role and responsibility. So if as I said, I'm working on a process improvement project. Now, when you want to improve a process, definitely core back of your mind is that you need to kind of know what the current process is, which is why I talked about the fact that I try to understand the current process and, engaging with different stakeholders using, again, elicitation techniques such as interview, workshops, surveys. Then I documented that current process, right? Using tools like Microsoft Visual, Draw.io to document the current process. Now, without understanding, then I identify the gaps, right? We know the gap of what is actually missing from this flow. What are the things that are causing these queues in the bank or making us not be able to actually open an account in 48 hours currently? So you identify all of those gaps, document them. Of course, you will not know it out of the box, and that's why you use your elicitation technique to engage with. You don't just want to say I chatted with the stakeholders, right? You want to say I use meditation techniques such as interview, workshop, brainstorming, and even informal conversation, right? To engage and gather this information, which you can then go and transform, right? You define. Then with that, you then collaboratively work with them again to document, okay, what will now be the future state? How can we then solve this problem? What are the things we need to do? In this case, I said we then implemented with the team, right? With my team of solution architects, developers, and okay, in this case, we call those automation guide solution architect. So we were able to automate the account opening workflow so that people can just submit a form, go to the website, fill out a form. I want to open an account, upload all your KYC. KYC is know your customer, right? Like your name, all those things, and your ID, right? It goes to the bank. They don't need to actually go to the bank to queue and fill out a physical form, right? And then the outcome is what I described. Of course, as you gather and refine those requirements, remember what I always say, validation. You need to go back, clarify, and validate those requirements, and also your future state that you document again. I also mentioned key part that, documenting your future state as a swim lane or process flow or whatever, you want to mention those things. So instantly, you've already demonstrated that, oh, I can actually draw process flow. Again, this is because I was talking about a process flow or process improvement type of project. So my approach, if I'm talking about software development, like what you're doing now, working with developers, the story will be slightly different, but my engagement with the team as well will be different. So in this case, it might be, okay, I'm working with a group of I'm working in a cross-functional team of developers, UI designers, software testers, solution architect, and other supporting team members, to build this solution X, doing this thing. So you give them that context. What is that project about? Yeah. So it might be we're building a mobile bank for a bank. And this bank had issues where their current mobile bank was developed by a third party based in Mexico. And because of the time zone difference from Nigeria to Mexico, to get support was very difficult. So whenever they have downtime, time zone difference, they can't get timely support, and bank customers suffer. Bank had to make a call and to use a local partner, which was our company. So there was a lot at stake for us. We needed to deliver a product that is fit for purpose for the bank in a very steep timeline, right? 6-month timeline enforced. So you've already given them context about what the problem is. Now, what did you do as a business analyst? I was engaging with the bank team, trying to understand their requirement. What are the core features they need as MVP for the mobile app, right? Then documenting that in my product backlog on Jira. Grooming that backlog, prioritizing, ensuring that it is up to date, capturing what is absolutely important for phase 1 delivery on that project. Those are MVP, right? And the challenging thing in this context is that the MVP has to be at least meeting what the bank currently have, like offer their customer, and improving on that. Because we can't launch a new app to the customer and not improve on anything other than downtime. It is not significant. So that was a challenging thing. We had to define an MVP that was going to improve on their current stage, which is a app that works but it's difficult to support, thereby losing the bank customer trust, and they are losing revenue as well. So I've already also added another context of how massive the problem is. So you see that I've not even gone into I write story, I do that, it's still high level. Just refine backlog, and then definitely as a bridge between the business team and the technical team, I would then explain these stories and acceptance criteria that have been prioritized in collaboration with the technical team to them, to enable them plan the sprint planning and all of those things to develop the solution. So constant engagement and validation with development team, and explaining same requirement or user story to the technical team for implementation. So you twist stories, but it is drawing from your bank of knowledge. You know what backlog requirement is. You just always start with the problem first. What you say as your own role as a business analyst, you've all learned it, right? You know what you do as a business analyst. So fill in the gap of what you do, right? And who you work with, then the outcome, right? Then we're able to deliver the project slightly on time. Or you can even say, so if I can say, oh, we didn't meet the 6-month deadline because we had some issues with getting APIs from the bank that we needed to actually integrate to this solution. This was totally on the bank because they were not able to give us the APIs to their core banking application in good time. So thereby, it extended our project timeline from that 6-month mandate they gave us. However, we had proactively communicated all these delays and impact of this delay to the team. Our project extended by 2 months, but we're able to deliver a product that upon go live and launching the app on the App Store and Google Store, we're able to get customer to download 10,000 times, right? Through, again, go to market strategy, managing expectation, and making sure that we migrated the data and everything from the current application to the new one. So managing that effort and managing customer disruption in a way that they were not able to feel the effect of that migration. So you can build on that. And I'm just giving you this story on the fly. But to your question, what do you say as your role as a business analyst? It can be in different form. If Tosin wants to say it, he will say it in different form. If Taya wants to say it, definitely gonna say in different form. So that's the expectation. So what we just want you to work with is know the problem of why that project exists. Talk about your role as a business analyst on what you did on that project, and then tell them the outcome for the tell me about yourself part. And even if they say, okay, we want to learn more about one of your projects, it's still the same. However, you will now be buttressing, right? Going back to this, you'll now be adding things like team composition, some of your skills, the tools that you use, things like that. That's all you just need to add on that to magnify it. Are we together?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. And in fact, going back to talking about the project, which is why we had this meeting, I think we've shared a few projects anyway. So this first project, and I'm hoping that a lot of you have actually read it. The first project is a company called InterSwitch. And InterSwitch is a fintech company based in Nigeria, but they have operations all over Africa, like in a lot of African countries now. Right? So fintech means that they're a financial technology company. So they build product in the financial space. So think about things like building mobile bank application, which I just talked about. Things about building some payment gateway services, right? They built the switch that allows one bank when you think about, you can go to any bank and withdraw with any ATM, is facilitating communication between banks. If I have a bank A, I have their card, I have an account with bank A, I can go to bank B and withdraw from their ATM, and it will debit my account in bank A, right? It is switching the communication that happens between the they are the ones that actually built the switch. So that's what you can see it here. They build switching service that allows inter and intra-bank transaction processing. So have you ever wondered, how is it possible that I can go to ANZ and use my Combank ATM and withdraw, and it will debit my. So for example, you're a Combank customer, you can go to ANZ ATM and withdraw with your Combank card, and it will debit your Combank. Have you ever thought about how did this happen? Right? So that transaction processing, before that can happen, there's communication between the bank. You understand? So companies like InterSwitch, this is in context of Africa, allows that inter and intra-bank transaction processing. So they provide the bank switching services. Do we understand?
Yeah.
Are we all here?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that we know what this company does, because sometimes it can be useful information. Of course, you need to know. And I worked with this company, by the way. So you know what this company does. And this is important again, because if you have like African experience on your resume, If you say, oh, I work with a company, you mention the name of the company, a nosy person might not know the company. Then they will ask you, oh, so what does this company does, right? Which is logical. So you need to be able to answer that question. At least if it's a bank, you say, oh, this is a bank based in Africa. If it's, depending on what it is, you need to be able to explain as well. It would be ridiculous you put a company, now you don't know what they do when they ask you. So please know what the company you're putting your resume does, right? So now the project context, and I've actually explained it in my response to Bernard, right? So this company, which is the context we're talking about. So there's a bank in Nigeria at the time. They had a mobile bank application. So I'm assuming we all know what mobile bank application. That thing you used to send money, right? Your bank app. But for that particular bank, their bank app was not built by people in the bank. It was built by a third party. When I say third party, another software development company like InterSwitch, right? But this company was based in Mexico. So there's a time difference between Nigeria and Mexico, right? Which means that if something happens during the day in Nigeria to the bank app, it is chaos for the bank. And bank have like thousands of, sometimes millions of customers. So thousands might be using the mobile app, it just goes down. Now, to get support, real-time support at the time from a company based in Mexico is very inefficient. So the bank app might have gone down for hours and hours before they get support from that company in Mexico. Do we think this is a big problem? Do we think this is a big problem?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I want us to all understand because it's going to help you then tailor this to your own experience, right? So ideally, we've talked about strategy before, right? A bank has to make a call. Now that our customers are suffering like this, we can't afford to be doing the same thing. So the bank made a strategic decision to look at different providers, alternatives that can help us build a mobile app that will be more efficient than what we currently have. And that's where InterSwitch came to the party. So InterSwitch has been building some mobile bank app for some other banks, and those banks are doing well. So they decided to engage InterSwitch at the time. However, they needed to do it fast, which is what I said, the enforced timeline. In fact, at that time, they said we should deliver that project in 3 months. But yeah, it was never going to happen. So it was pressure from day one. So basically, they wanted a bank app that would connect with their core banking application. Now, core banking application, so core banking application is responsible for all the transaction, credit, debit, general ledger. I don't want to go too complex, but just think about what actually processes the debit, credit, you request for loan, the system that manages all those operations. You made a deposit, you withdrew money, you want interest on your savings, you need to pay for fees, card, all of those things. It is a core banking application that helps that to happen. And of course, we know what CRM is, customer relationship management system. Now, again, I don't want to assume, but we all know what APIs are. Facilitate, right? communication between systems. So we know what the project is about now, I believe. So the bank engaged InterSwitch to say, hey guys, build us a replacement mobile app in 3 months. InterSwitch will not say no, but yeah, we had to be absolutely sure on what we want to deliver in 3 months. MVP. It was challenging. It was not going to happen in 3 months because mobile bank app for a bank is complex. It's complex in itself. However, what was the team composition? The team composition, which we've talked about today as well. I'm getting echo. Who is not on me? Emmanuel. I'm gonna mute you for a bit. Okay, so the team composition here. This is another sample composition, right? And this was my real team composition, by the way. So I had 4 developers who are based in different part of the world. So we had 3 backend developers in Nigeria at the time, and we had 1 developer based in Germany. And we have 2 developers based in Nigeria, 3 testers, 1 UI designer based in Germany, 1 business analyst, myself, 1 project manager. Are we all good? So you see that this team they are not only based in different parts of the world. So basically they are all based in different parts of the world. So it's a distributed team. So you have to worry about things like time zone. So if you're a Scrum Master, it can be an interview question like, how do you manage distributed teams? Because you need to definitely ensure that you are aligning with their time zone. You're creating a situation where everybody is efficient. If I'm like currently, I work with people in India, Vietnam, New Zealand, Australia. We all have different time zone. So if you want to fix meeting, it can be challenging. You need to look at the type of meeting and when you need to fix that meeting that would be optimal for everybody to be able to contribute or join. So that one is for Scrum Master. But anyway, tools used. I think this is like pretty straightforward. So we use tools like Miro, Confluence, Figma. Figma is for design, by the way. So this is the UI UX designer that will use Figma. And I've already talked about the fact that this was an high-stake project, right? So they wanted us to do this in 3 months because they really wanted to junk that current mobile app. Now, what are the KPIs? Again, interview question. They can ask you, oh, what was your KPI on the project you worked on? Don't be surprised. It's just like, how are you going to be measured, or how do you measure success on that project? So it can go both ways. It can be how was success measured in project context, or how was project success measured for your own role. So they can ask you in different form. But what is important is for us, we were able to deliver that in 8 months. And I talked about how we were able to manage that situation. So at the time, every single delay in anything we required, like were dependencies from the bank, we documented, communicated the impact. So we request for APIs now, you're delaying for 3-4 days. We document it and say, hey, in the report, we're doing daily report. Because of the delay on the API, you've promised Friday, this project will now stretch 3 more days as a result. If we don't get the API on Friday, every other day that we delay, this will be the impact. It's clear project management, right? It is you saving yourself, because as I said, it was high stake. And that's what, for people that want to be a Scrum Master as well, or you might get a job as a project coordinator or project manager, you must understand that you have to be proactive. So, and then the other KPI was 0. We don't want to get bugs. Remember, our customers are already frustrated. They're already frustrated that this bank, they are a joke. Every time, downtime, right? So we need to say, okay, now that you're saying you're launching a new bank application, you can then give them a lot of bugs. And typically, when you've just deployed something, you might face a lot of challenge. So for us here, we needed to plan carefully and not kill the user experience. Are we together? Right? So these were some of the KPIs. These were the key KPIs I wanted to call out. Yeah. So if it's your personal KPIs, it can be that, oh, you ensure that you groom your stories on time, or you write clear requirement, smart requirement. Yeah. You're engaging with the team. So you can look at sample KPIs for business analysts, basically.
So, sorry, can I ask a question in regards to KPI?
Yes.
If they say, let's say, okay, our KPI, I was able to increase the KPI by, let's say, 5%, quantify it, and they ask you, what tool do you use to improve the KPI, and how do you quantify the KPI?
What do you improve by 45%, first of all?
Let's just say, like, the team, the job done, our job is completed in, job is more completed efficiently. Let's say I've seen increase like 15%.
Yeah. So before you put a percentage to anything, by rule, you must know where you're starting from. So that is why I know a lot of people just put that number in your resume. Oh, we improve operational efficiency by 15%, or by 20%. Yeah, very all well and good, but where were you coming from? So to your question, I would answer you this way. One, you don't give generic number just for the sake of it. Because if you say 15%, you need to tell them this was what was happening first. But I'll give you a real example. If you want to say that, oh, I improve number of defects, right, by 50%, for example. Sorry, I improved team efficiency by 15%. I can say, currently, we have average of 7 defects raised after every sprint, right? So we can say, oh, we have 7 defects raised every sprint, which means that we will need to take them, most of the time, we need to take a couple of them back to the next sprint and rework and waste time and all of that. So things that we're supposed to have done in a sprint, we are using like 2 sprints to do. Now, if you want to say that, oh, I improved that process by 15%, you can then say, through my effort to coach the team better on best code practices, ensuring that clearer acceptance criteria, ensuring that we're doing our retro, so we are looking for ways to improve and we're implementing those suggestions in the next sprint, helped us get to 15% efficiency, which is like we now have lesser number of defects per sprint. Like, is that not making more sense than, oh, we just improve it by 15%? It's like anything in life. If I say, oh yeah, I'm now 15% better than yesterday, which is what you're saying essentially. If you just say, oh, I improve efficiency by 15%. If I say I'm now 15% better than yesterday, but where were you yesterday? Do we understand? So please,
Yeah.
you always have to start from the problem. Is it you want to talk about defect, right? If it's defect, give them count. Oh, before per sprint, we record like average of 5 defects per sprint. So I had to work with the team. First of all, during retro, we discussed and find a way, everybody gave suggestions on things that are not working well. So we then took action item to improve, first of all, estimation, writing more clearer acceptance criteria, ensuring that we use code best practice, like adding comment, making sure that the developer, they do unit test, all of these things. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Oh no, did you lose it?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
I think we lost.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened. My network. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, looks like you're back.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Welcome back.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So what I'm saying is that whenever you're thinking about KPI, give them a sense of where you're coming from. I hope you can all hear me. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, give them a sense of where you're coming from. For example, if you say that averagely we had 5 defects, reported every sprint for like 3 sprints. Now, I had to resolve that issue because 5 defect means that we can't take on new work most of the time. We need to then be, firefighting, trying to resolve all these defects, which wastes time, development time, and makes the team very frustrated. Now, we did retro to dive into, what we do in retro, right? We talked about some of the things that are not going well, and we made action points. Some of these things were estimation were not clear enough. Acceptance criteria could be better, or they're not clear enough. The developers are not adhering to best code practices like commenting, adding unit tests to their code. Some of these things, right? We then took away and ensure that we get better on them. As a result, our defect count reduced to 2 per sprint. And over time, we were able to eradicate it. So we get only 1 some sprint and none in most of the sprint. Does that show any value?
Yes.
Yes. So even though you've just talked about one KPI, but you see all the story that I've built around it, they will even be happy like, oh, actually, clear. Because you've told them something that is real. All right, so I'm going to give us 5-minute break and we'll come back in 5 minutes. So 5 minutes. All right, let's get back, everyone. Can we all come back, please? So we can continue. Can we come back, please? It's only Fatima I'm talking to today. It is well.
Yeah.
We're here.
God save my soul. What a lonely road. All right, thank you. I can see Bukola. Okay, great. Mark, thank you for saving me. All right, so let's can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I hope we all understand KPIs now, both personal KPIs and project KPI. So this is an example, like you want to meet a particular duration or timeline can be the KPI. Oh, that you don't have bugs or defects in production might be a KPI. That people don't start to escalate things when you go live can be a KPI. For you as a business analyst, your KPI can be making sure you're writing good requirement, right? It can be things like improving team efficiency and making sure they're delivering the product. It can also be linked to the project KPI by delivering the project at certain time. So all of those things can be your personal KPIs as well. All right. So you can see the summary of this particular project. We were able to deploy that product, that bank application on Google Store, Play Store, and we had around like 10,000 downloads. And it was easy because, I mean, in terms of number of downloads, it was easy because they already have the customer. It's not like we're trying to get new people to use the app. So it's more like the old guys were able to update their app in that period. But the most important thing is it was seamless. They updated to the new app. They didn't even feel pain like, hey, something is changing. Because sometimes when you do migration, yes, you can plan the best way you can. Sometimes something can go wrong that would affect your migration process. So when I say something, I have one experience where we were doing migration of wallet balance. So we were moving one wallet to another wallet and migrating the balance, right? So think about these guys that are using the wallet for transaction. If for people that are familiar with that process in Nigeria, I don't know if we have that in Kenya as well. They are called agents. So they like provide financial services. So people go there and give them ATM, right? And they put in the machine like a POS machine, and they get debited and they collect cash from that agent. So we were migrating agent wallet that has their balance to another system. And then in that project, after the migration, the balance was not correct. So essentially, if you had like, let's just say you have like 200K in your account, you can find 20K or 5K. So you can already imagine the kind of chaotic experience. And we did the migration around 1 a.m. because to minimize disruption. But that's another thing. When you're doing migration, you don't want to do it in your peak core work hours, right? Because the disruptions will be severe. So when we notice that this balance is not jiving, is not correct, all action, we try to roll it back, at least to get back to current state, where when the agents wake up, right, they find their money, because it can be chaotic if they wake up and the balance is still not correct. So my point here is that migration can have some issues as well that can be severe. And that's why you see most of your banks, at least that's the obvious one, when they are doing migration or maintenance, sometimes they put it like 11, 1 a.m. in the night. They will tell you ahead, like, hey, we're doing maintenance. They will not do it during the day. They know. So it's that experience I want to bring to your consciousness as well. So when we talk about migration, as part of our planning, we always want to do it off-peak period. And majority of time, off-peak period is around when people are sleeping, depending on time zone. Right? So that is when we want to kind of put our migration, just because things can go wrong and you must have a rollback plan. I think we talked about this as well. So rollback plan is, hey, if we're going there to new system and something goes wrong, how are we going to go back to current state? Right? So things can at least continue to function until we resolve the issue. Are we all together?
Yes.
Does that make
Yes.
sense? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Does make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we want to ensure that, hey, we are not spoiling it like with the new changes, because think about it. Customer have an experience. If you change that experience and it's not for the better, you lose those customers if you can't go back to what you had before. So rather than just go and do migration blindly, every serious organization will also have a rollback plan, right? And even in saying that, they might also have the decommissioning plan, we've talked about as well. Like when we move from that current state to the future state, that current state, how do we then decommission that system or that process? Okay, so my storyline, the project was successful. The bank customer adopted the new bank app, and as a result, the bank trusted us with more projects. So they gave us more contracts because that project was successful. And yeah, that was one of the highlights of my career, so because that project was very instrumental. The GM gave the team a promotion as a result. So is there anybody that can use this experience and create a narrative to make their own experience, or can take some part of it and make up an experience? Nobody? So are we saying that this project one I explained is a waste, like we can't make any sense of?
I can, because I can relate.
Okay.
But I can't do it now. Sorry.
No, not doing it now, right? Of course,
Okay.
you have. I'm just asking generally, so I know that I've not just wasted my time. Because if I explain this project,
Yes.
yeah, because if I explain this project and nobody can make sense of it, then why go to the second one and third one?
Yes.
Now, this one I can relate to very well. I can say I'm a part of something like that. I've been a part of something like that, so I can.
Yeah, good. Okay, anybody else?
It's something I can also try to. I've
Yeah.
actually had that, like while going through the project ideas, I actually had that already like written down as one of my projects I could talk about. So it's something I can work on also.
Sweet. Okay. Thank you for that. So it's not a waste. Let's continue. All right. So The second one here, implementing product roadmap features for an energy company looking to become a market leader in the sector. So again, this is my current company. So my current company is an energy company, global energy company, based in Australia, but we have operations in the US, India, Vietnam, Japan, and yeah. So those locations, right? And and Dubai. So and they're expanding to other markets. So basically, what the company wants to achieve strategically is that they want to be a leader. When you think energy in the coming years, they want you to think about Tally Group, right? Just like when you think about search, I'm looking for answer, you think Google, and maybe more recently ChatGPT. So that is the strategic objective of the company. So how do they do that? Or how do they plan to do that? They have a couple of roadmap, and I think we all know what roadmap is. These are the things that we want to do, right? That would position us as that leader, as I've just said. So these are some of the features that they want to develop as part of their application. So credit control tag. Now, as we all know, people face different challenges. And here in Australia, a lot depend on you having light, right? Electricity in your house. But sometimes people lose their job, maybe they're involved in accident, things like that. They're in financial hardship. So they can't pay regularly. And if you default for a period, the energy retailer would say what? Well, they will disconnect you somehow. But think about the things you'll not be able to do if you don't have electricity. So there are a couple of things that serves as a control. So if you're facing financial hardship, if you let the energy retailer, so just to give you a bit more context, so this company I'm talking about, they have people called energy retailer. So energy retailer are like your AGL, Origin, Aurora Energy, whatever energy company. If you're paying your bills anyway, hopefully you're paying. Whatever energy company that you're using in your house is an energy retailer, right? So they provide a platform for them to be able to bill you, charge you, know how much electricity you're using, so that they can do things like customer management, know the customer, right? And know how to invoice you, know what you've used per time, things like that. And of course, when you use electricity, you need to pay. And as I was saying earlier, if you have some hardship, financial hardship, you want to let the retailer know. And when the retailer knows, by law, they should do something. They should offer you help, maybe flexible payment. Maybe you want to be on a payment plan, so that you continue to have electricity without fail. So there's something called credit control tag. So I'm not going to go into the details but I think you should get the gist of the matter. So these are and again, some of their features are driven by compliance because, as I said, by law, there's a body governing electricity affairs in Australia, and it's called AEMO, which is Australia Electricity Management Operators. So they are like the regulators, the watchdogs of energy standards in Australia. So basically, they checkmate all of the retailers so that they are not overcharging you. For people that are familiar with the system in Nigeria, in Nigeria, sometimes the electricity provider can bring estimated bill, and to challenge them is going to be crazy. They can disconnect you, they can do anything they like. They set their own rules. But here, like if there's a lot of checks and balances. So these guys they're like the regulators. So they checkmate all the things that happen in this sector. So basically, our system must be compliant. Else, immediately you get fined millions of dollars. And of course, no company wants to incur fines and all of that. So the company wants to make sure that all of these roadmap features are delivering on the objective, what it should deliver on without fail. So I'm working on some of those projects in my roadmap. So again, this is team composition. I should not stress this out. But do you guys understand the problem in this case? You know what, not problem, opportunity, and what this project is about, this roadmap, what is about, and why we are doing the roadmap. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is to position this company as an industry leader. So whenever any company or any retailer wants a platform to manage all their selling and buying of electricity to customers like you and I, they want to go to this company, right? And to do that, they must have some core features that would allow them become that player. So I'm saying that I am a business analyst that's leading this team. So you can see the team composition. I mentioned it earlier as well. Some are based in India, New Zealand, Australia, Vietnam as well. Tools used. These are the tools used. And you can see the project timeline. So this is a 12-month project. So I've been working on it. Because it's a roadmap features, it also evolves. They can come up with new roadmap item, right? They can come up with new features and add it to the roadmap. Regulators can release another legislation and they want us to be compliant. So they will add it to the roadmap as well. So all of that is allowed. But for now, our initial timeline is 12 months, which we've been working on it. KPIs. We've talked about KPIs. These are another KPI here. We want to continue to ensure customer satisfaction, right? So does anybody know what customer churn means? Let's make it conversational now.
So that customers won't leave,
Hmm?
the rate at which customers are leaving will be less.
Consumption or something.
And why can customer leave?
Bad service?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of factors like that one.
Yep.
When the rates are not what they are seeing on their rates is different from what is actually in their meter.
Yeah. Great. So that's exactly. So I want you guys to actually internalize it. So think about it like they issue you an invoice and it's just astronomical. Like you just feel maybe they just send you 1,000 to pay. You want to investigate like what did I use this quarter? Why am I getting this high rate? So if you're not happy, maybe your neighbor, you're asking around, your neighbor says, my own is just 300. Why? You might want to churn, you might want to leave that provider and explore other provider. So sometimes it's bad experience, sometimes it might be system issue, sometimes it might be customer service, but in context of this, these are some of the KPIs. And I'm hoping that we can all understand. So this one is compliance. I've talked about how compliance is important. Else you get fined like millions of dollars.
Hey, Mike.
Right? And then efficient billing and invoicing. Of course, every 3 months, for those of us that get invoice for electricity, you get invoice every quarter, right? So
Yes.
you want to make sure that the retailer always want to make sure that all the customer get their invoice, because it is when they get invoice they pay. They know how much to pay. So you can't make mistake. If your platform is erroneous and making mistake, then customer will churn as well. So we need to understand that. Now, adoption of new payment plan. So adoption rate. So you remember I said we're working on flexible payment plan here. We want to make sure that people are adopting it, like using it. That's part of our KPIs. Does this make sense? Now,
Yes.
some of
Yes, it does.
is there any problem with these KPIs? Is there any problem with these KPIs?
No, from my side.
Hmm. Okay. Nobody can see any problem with these KPIs.
The adoption rate of new payment plans, I think, because customers might find it a bit, you know, disturbing, might be a little bit of challenge.
What do you mean find it disturbing?
Accepting the new payment rates.
The payment plan is like, oh, they've billed me 700 for this quarter. I don't have 700 to just pay once. Can I pay it in installment? And talk to the retailer. I want to pay it $100 over 3 months every 3 weeks. Sorry, every week or whatever. Right? Payment plan, just like normal payment plan.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just so we don't waste time. So the problem I want to call out here is that it's not quantifiable, right? When we say, oh, customer satisfaction score post implementation, somebody should ask me, like, what is the score they are expecting, right? Churn. We talked about churn rate. Like, what is the reduction in churn rate? What is the current churn rate? And how do we then measure if this has indeed reduced our churn rate? You want to dive into that, because you can't improve what you can't measure, right? It is very clear. So please, let's pay attention to that. When you get something that is so generic, you need to know how you want to improve that. All right? So this is fine. Compliance, that's more generic. You might not know, but yeah, this is also fine. But things like reduction in churn rate, this you need to know where are we? How many percent churns today? Or what's the number of people that churn? Then how then do we reduce that? Like, so what number do you want it to reduce to? That's how you measure something, right? So you can see the project outcome, right? Project outcome, successfully implemented these features, which has enhanced customer loyalty, attracted new customers, ensured that we comply with regulatory compliance need or requirement. And then, of course, because of those good work, is strengthening our presence in the market, that thereby making us one of their preferred choice currently. And of course, we achieved our KPIs. Yeah. Does this make sense? Does this make sense, guys?
Yes, it
Yeah, I
does.
think they're a little more complex than the first one, but I think it does make sense.
Hmm. What's the complexity here?
So unlike the first one where you're trying to solve a problem, this is basically trying to increase sort of like your presence in the market. So I think it's almost like a different sort of solution that you're working on. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, you're correct. And that's why we say not all project is like problem, but yeah, in a way, it's still solving a problem, to be honest. Like if we don't do all these things, becomes a problem because the guys that are using our feature, our solution currently might be in breach of this. And as I've told you, the impact is severe. It's millions of literally. I'm telling you my real current experience, not some like you they can find our retailer millions of dollars because they are companies. I've mentioned some of these retailers. Now, when that happens, what will happen? The first thing is they fire the platform owner, which is my company. So the work we do is very important. So yes, it's not
I
necessary.
don't understand.
Which part? You don't understand what's that?
Where they fired the platform.
Okay,
What
so
happened?
this company that I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Provide all of these things that they provide the platform to allow the energy retailers like AGL, Origin, right, to put their customers like you and I to have a, when you want to connect to your house, they will collect your details, right, as the customer of that house. So they can invoice you with those details. Now they put it on the platform that we built. But not all retailers we're not the only one in that business, right? So there are other competitors. What we want to do is to be that go-to, right? Whenever any retailer wants to start selling or distributing electricity, they will say, hey, go and use Tally Group. They are the best, no issues, right? That is what we want to achieve. What I'm saying is that going back to Bernard saying, no, not necessarily solving a problem. I'm saying if we don't develop this epics or this initiative, right, it can quickly become a problem because we might not be compliant here according to these regulators, and they will find our client, which are the retailers. And when that happens, what do you think will happen? Retailers will look for another option. They will fire us. That's what I mean. Do you understand? Yeah, so everything has impact. Our retailers don't want their customers to churn because of the system. Then they don't also want fines from regulators. For us, we don't want churn too. We don't want our retailers to leave our platform and go somewhere else. But if they are having a bad experience because we're not improving our system, we're not adding new features, we're not compliant, then what will happen? They will just fire us. So I'm going to talk about one more project, and I think we should get the gist of the other too. Now, this project will help. I would beg you to listen. Like, I would really beg you, if possible, turn on your video so you get this. I've actually given somebody this project before, and it really helped them, secure the job because a lot of like this project has a lot of weight because you can twist it, turn it, and organization here in Australia, they really love, this type of project. And just because again, there are a lot of insurance company, financial company based here in Australia. So when you say this, it shows that you have a lot of experience. Now, in saying that, what is this project about? So there's a merger, right? Merger means company A is an insurance company, maybe a big insurance company. Company B is another insurance company. Now let's bring it to the fore. This is Medibank, for example. I hope we all know Medibank. And then this is maybe Bupa, right? Those are big ones, but let me not use those ones. Which other one? So sorry, I'm just gonna use both, right? For now, I can't remember. So we have these two insurance company. Now there's a merger. Merger happens when two companies are coming together to become one, right? So we've seen it before in Nigeria as well. Access Bank, Diamond Bank. A lot of times, bank come together, merge, and become one. And I'm sure that it's happened in Kenya as well, right? So merge banks, become one. So when that happens is merger. Now, what is this project? Operational consolidation. Now, I'm begging everybody to turn on their camera so they are engaged now, because if you're engaged, you do less reading, right? So when two companies like this merge, what are some of the issues that can happen? Right? What are some of the issues that can happen?
They have different clients that they'll need to bring
Yeah.
together, bring
Yes,
all information together in one system.
absolutely. Different clients, yeah.
Their
Possible.
identity is also different.
Identity is different. Thank you. Who
Yeah,
else?
Policy
different products.
different.
Different products.
Different product. Thank you. Who else is in this class?
Different policy.
Sometimes it's
Different modes of operations and processes.
Thank you. Different modes of
consolidation of
operation.
liabilities.
Liabilities. Okay, good. Right? You can see everything is different, from customer to product to system to people, to processes to ways of working. Everything will be different. Now, for the scope of this project, now you see that there's a lot of opportunity that you can. That's why I said you can twist it. It's a very dynamic project. You can twist it anyway. You can say, okay, I just want to talk about it from a perspective of operation, which is what this one is, operation consolidation. Or I want to talk about from system consolidation. Or I want to talk about it from ways of working consolidation. Or I want to, like, there are so many variants, really. But what we know is when two companies merge, there's what? There's two ways of doing things that cannot continue. Right? So we can't, once we are one legally, we can't continue to be two. So we need to consolidate. And that's what this is about. That's all what this is saying. So the goal is we want to integrate, merge our system, our IT system, right? Because when we consolidate, if I'm from the Medibank arm of operations, I'm Bupa, we need to come and be saying the same language. Like, we can't be doing different things like we've always been doing. So our system has to be streamlined and consolidated. Now, a business analyst plays a very vital role. You can already see it's a massive project. It's not one BA. This is another example of where it can't be one BA working on all of these different parts. And that's why I said you can twist and turn whatever part you want to speak to. You can choose one part like system consolidation. You're a BA, you want to ensure that we now merge and harmonize or consolidate the systems, right? So we determine, okay, based on these new ways of working, these are the relevant system we need to going for. But before then, we need to definitely work with stakeholders to understand the requirement, what system both companies are using, how then do we do we then get another system that we move the old system to, or do we choose one of those systems? So all of those kind of discussion needs to happen, right? So you as a business analyst will be doing a lot of elicitation, engagement, workshop, requirement gathering, whatever. But the objective is clear in your mind, right? We're integrating system, right? Or it can be that we want to harmonize or integrate our product. As you know, Medibank offers different products today. Bupa offers different products today. How then do we define or design another new product that will now be for this company? Also, are we changing the name of the like, are we going to change the name of the company to something else, or we're going to change everything to Bupa, or we're going to change everything to Medibank going forward? So they might have decided that might not be in the scope of your project. But my point is, product, you might choose the product part that you want to harmonize the product, which means that you make some assumptions like, oh, they've already agreed that they will be designing new products. Manuel, sorry, I need to mute you. I'm getting feedback. So we might decide to say we're designing new product that would now represent the whole company, or we're going to say, okay, Bupa product is nice, or Medicare product is the best. We have more customers with Medibank. Let us all move all our Bupa product, and start to phase out our Bupa product and start to use Medibank. So all of those conversations can happen, and a business analyst plays a key role. You can be optimizing operation. We have two ways of doing things. Now we need to have one way of doing things going forward. So business analysts will be there working on streamlining and consolidating operation, or designing a new operation that both set of stakeholders will now be working on going forward. Or we want to standardize new process, right? So I feel like Tayo should talk more about this as well. Let me catch my breath. I know you want to talk because that's your project.
Or you want to catch your breath.
Well, maybe.
Okay, so essentially these project goals, this is like 4 projects in this goal that you can talk about, depends on what comes very easy to you. If you wanted to start with harmonizing the product and services, that's a big chunk of work. Now, when you think about it, there are 2 sets of products, Medibank and Bupa. I think that was the reference. Bupa currently, they have the product that they're selling. Medibank as well, they have their product that they're selling. Now we've merged, we are now one entity. There will then be a decision where we decide, what do we want to do to some of these products? Are we going to grandfather some of these products? Grandfathering product means we're still servicing that product, but we're not selling it anymore. So the product will still be available to the existing users, but we won't be issuing that product out anymore. So that's what grandfathering means. Before we can arrive at that decision, a business analyst, like Noah said, real project currently happening, a business analyst would look at all the existing products of both organizations. Now, you're not the one making that decision. This is a board level, product team level kind of decision that needs to be made to those products to say, which of these products are we keeping? Which of these products are we going to stop selling? Which of these products are we going to grandfather? So they will before they make that decision, there will be some considerations from both ends. Which of Bupa's product and Medibank product is actually doing so well? And which of these, what are some of the ratings or features that we can leverage that Medibank currently does have that Bupa doesn't have, right? So they will do that product, what they call the product rationalization. In that case, they will then make a decision based on, okay, these are the offerings, this is what has a lot of value from a customer perspective, this particular product does well. They will do that rationalization process to say, okay, based on these factors, let's keep some of these products, we're going to make a decision to stop selling this product. That's the whole product harmonization and servicing. But there's a lot that goes into it where a business analyst plays a key role. On this type of particular project, you will not be working with developers if you just wanted to choose number 2. Now, if you look at the integrate system, that's a different project that you can talk about. But if you just say, okay, I worked in the member experience and product team for this particular project, where the main objective was to work on product rationalization, harmonization, and grandfathering of some of our existing products. So that's the key thing. Now, what did you do in that regard? Of course, you worked with SMEs on this particular one to identify what are the factors that we're considering to say this product, we're going to keep this product over the other one. What are some of the impacts to member? What are some of the communication, right, that needs to go out to a member to say, from this date, we will no longer be selling this product. A BA is going to be really key in terms of notification of product changes to members. The legal and compliance component of this as well. So there's different factors. If you just want to stick to product rationalization and product grandfathering, in that case as well, we would also be looking at, okay, because now we're a new brand, of course, we want to have a new tone of voice. It's also TOV. We want to have a new tone of voice. We want to introduce some new products to market, right? So out of this decision that we've made based on our existing product, we've decided to create some new product as well. As a business analyst, you're part of the team working on even just creating some of the brochurewares, right, that would go with this product, some of the guides, you know, the financial services guide, some of their lots of different collateral that we need to go with this project, working very closely with the legal team to work on the terms and conditions, you know, that will go with the product. So there's different components to this one, and you can talk about it in a way that you will break down all of the different stakeholders that you engage just on that number 2. It's a standalone, you know, project. When you're talking about integrate system, that's a different part as well. If you just even wanted to think about the marketing, the system that they use for marketing, as an example, Salesforce Marketing Cloud and Salesforce Financial Services Cloud, to say maybe Bupa and Medibank. Bupa was probably using maybe Chandler for their member communication, where Medibank is using Salesforce for their communication. We will make a decision as business to say, well, Salesforce has more capability. So they decided to slowly decommission Chandler and then migrate all of the existing customers on Chandler to, you know, Salesforce. So because they made that decision, but to even make that decision on the system to retain post-merger, it's a big work that needs to go into, okay, what are the functionality of both systems? So weighing both systems against one another, do you understand? Trying to weigh, okay, what are the impact as well from a system point of view? So it depends on how you want to really milk this story. I think Noah started with it because this is a really good one to talk about. You nail this properly in an interview. No one's ever going to doubt that you haven't done the job.
Yeah.
In relation to harmonization of the product and rationalizing them, that's one way to put that, if you just even want to focus on that particular one, as you worked with the member experience and the product team for this one. But of course, the bigger picture is that 2 insurance companies merged. Now you worked maybe in a particular program of that project, and the name of your project is really in relation to product rationalization and our service offerings to now consolidate. There's other big chunk of work that would happen to, okay, we're grandfathering this product. Some of our product will stop selling them. How do we manage it comes to our customers? What's the role of your change manager? What's your role as a business analyst in helping them really come to that decision of what this is our current state and this is where we want to go to? So you're going to be very pivotal in giving that more clarity as to, okay, these are all the, so because someone needs to analyze their current offerings for both companies and see, okay, so this one has this one doesn't have this, and it can be a manual task, a little bit depends on the company and the systems they have in place. It can be a manual task where someone speaks to the different stakeholders involved. All of them will be in a room, stakeholders from Medibank, because remember, they're not one legal entity. Stakeholders from Medibank, stakeholders from Bupa, they will all be in the room because we are now one. Talk about, oh, these are the product, this offers this doesn't have this. Someone has to document that. Then it goes to the boards and the execs to make the decision, and you get your sign off. And that's how you have your single product rationalization that we will now be using, as we are no longer Bupa and Medibank. We are now maybe BOPMed insurance, and those new products that we've identified will now be BOPMed products and services.
You're so bad with names. Come on.
I am actually, but you're not any better. So I can't go there.
No, that's not correct. But anyway, minus the awful name, we can get the crux of the matter. So yeah, that's why we said there's a lot of ways you can twist and turn. You can tackle it from standardizing operation, like you've all have said, right? We can tackle it from integrating system. You can tackle it from harmonizing product, like Tayo have said. You know, there's just so many angles, really. Yeah. Bernard?
So just to understand this better, so the project goal can be it can be that we worked in one of the sessions, so either in the standardization process, or basically I think the one that Tayo was talking about, like the grandfathering, where the executives making decisions.
Just like, don't let her use grammar to kill you. It's just like their product and services they provide, right? Both companies, right? Now, how do we determine which one should we continue to be selling to our customer? Which one should we say, hey, we've had enough, you've had a good run. Did you say grandfather? Grandmother? Let's kill it.
It's grandfathering. It's grandfathering means we are slowly going to take it out of market. Like we won't be reissuing those products, but it will still be available to the existing users. But you would not know. We will just send out comms to you to say, look, we are no longer issuing this product, but we'll continue to service, i.e., if a customer has got any complaint about that particular product, all the current assets, all the terms and conditions, privacy policy, all those documentation will still be available for a period of time until we no longer service that product, which will then be, we've taken that product completely out of market. It's just a slow, soft launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't want to like tell the people that already have that product, like, hey, we're not supporting this product anymore. You know, so you definitely want to still support them. They still have the product for as long as you then slowly transition them away or offer them something else, right? Later, like, hey, why not join this product? It's better. It will offer you better rate, whatever, right? And then they would decide, okay, let's move. So, yeah, I think that's something that you can play with, research more. How am I going to talk about? But we've given you examples of different ways to tackle it.
I just wanted to quickly add something to that, just from a story perspective, where a BA can also come in that play, just on the point that you made, Noah, to say that, okay, at the point where we're sending out that information to them, say we are now grandfathering this product, we're no longer selling this product. There's something called the trigger point, and a BA is very pivotal in trying to identify those trigger points where what are those points what are those moments in the life cycle of a customer that we can leverage to introduce them to some of our new offerings. So a business analyst will try and map out potentially a trigger point. Maybe a member or a customer comes to the bank or comes to the insurance company at some point. What are those things that they could potentially say that would make us introduce them to our new offerings, right? So for example, if they come and complain about, or if they come to talk about some of this product, a BA would try and identify if a member says, well, I'm experiencing difficulties with this product, or, I'm not too sure. We can leverage some of those moments to say, well, now that's fine, we can fully support you. However, have you heard about this new offering that we have? And whoever is servicing that customer can leverage that opportunity to then try and market the new product. So as part of your work on, harmonizing the product and services, you can also include that we also worked on trigger point for our customers, which was a very key part of in really trying to look at the life cycle of a customer and their journey, and at what point could
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
what part?
As part of my job, I was
Are
able
you
to.
writing you up for what this woman?
Yeah, so yeah, basically, like, a business analyst would be very, very key in really trying to say, in my role, in order to ensure that, we're able to really promote the new services, I identify some of the key trigger points using the life cycle of the customer to say, if a customer, say you create like different use cases in that case, the customer were to come into the bank to talk about this grandfather product, whoever the frontliner would take the opportunity to guide them and talk them through these new offerings that we have. So someone said, could you speak about the TOV? So TOV means tone of voice. It's more a marketing term where in the way that we relate to our customer, the type of messaging that we're putting out to customers, in the way that we want them to perceive the brand. What experience do we want to give to our customers? Now, there's Bupa, there's Medibank. Obviously, the tone of voice is going to be different. The marketing team in that company would need to then work on a new tone of voice that aligns with the new name, their new brand. They would have new brand identity. All the assets will be different. That's really what the TOV is speaking to. In the way that we interact with our customers, we probably use some references in the old banks, but now that we are now a new bank, a new insurance company, in this case, we will no longer be using some of the terminologies that we had prior. There would be a different identity. The comms will be different as well. We want them to perceive us not as Medibank or as Bupa anymore, but as BopMed, like the name that I gave, if that's who we are now. So that's really what the TOV is speaking to.
All right, great. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, just to call out, you can see the team composition here. It's quite different from what we've seen in a couple of others. So you see the kind of people you'll be working with. Not necessarily developers, except you're like tackling it from here. Sorry, integrating system. Even here, you might not need developers. It might be other roles like DevOps, infrastructure. Sorry?
Architects, the data architects.
Yeah, it can be those roles like data architect, the infrastructure team, SRE. So all of those type of roles that will just look at it. The system is like all the technology, all the system application they use. Which one are we keeping? Which one are we deprecating? Which one, should we tell the vendor bye-bye? So they will just do that audit and analysis and then determine that. So what I'm trying to call out is it's not like 2 dev, 3 backend, 3. So it's not everything that it is about dev, project are like this and it's not about dev. Fatima.
If we decide that we are going to move to a new system, does it mean we're going to get a new vendor and everything?
Yeah, it depends. Like if the system, if it's, again, you might determine, oh, we're moving to a new system, but we're building the new system. Hey, so you don't need vendor. if you're determining, oh, we are moving to any, but we are buying and a customer of the shelf system, then of course you need to buy from somewhere, right? So you need to do that vendor analysis, and I think I've explained that before one of our session. Yeah. Summer.
So just a question about the if we're going from the system integration point of view, and let's say just like Fatima said, if we're like getting from a vendor and all of that, that process, is it system migration or not?
It depends. There might be some element of system migration. It depends on what decision you make, really. So for example, we've established that there are two kind of system. There are some system that they might not really have to, right? So it might be that for some things, this company has a system, this company does not even do that thing, right? In that case, you're not migrating anything. They might decide, okay, this system, we will now continue to use it. This company's customer, they will start to use this new system. So no real change there. We're just like continuing that process. But in some situation, in most of the situation, for their core services, there might need to be migration, because we don't want to continue to maintain two systems because it's expensive. We will pay for, depending on if they built it internally or if they are using a vendor. Imagine they are using a vendor for CRM and maybe ERP or whatever. They will be paying this one and paying this one. At some point, they will need to say, hey, we need to move something, right? We need to consolidate. So that is what we're talking about. So it really depends, right? It depends on how you want to spin the story. If you want to say, oh, well, we had to do migration, then get the story right. You know that if you're doing migration, we have decided that we're going to move one system to maybe Medibank Zone for this part because it's better and more customers are here, or we will move the two to another new system that can allow us do the volume that we want to do. Remember, maybe Medibank have 1 million customer, Bupa has 1 million customer, and the capacity of their two system is 1.2. You can't use both system, right? So you need to look for another system that can help you do like 5 million, right? So that when you put your 1 million, it's scalable. Do you understand? So those are kind of like instances where it depends on, you're the architect of your story. You just need to know the core, right, of how you want to tailor it. And you can come up with, the beauty is you have us, you come up with your draft, write it in a first person storytelling approach. Don't write it too hard, like, write it like you're talking, right? So that you can then review, bounce it off us, like, hey, does this make sense? And so that when you're even reading it and trying to internalize it, it's conversational, it makes sense. So I will encourage everybody, write your story. Don't just write ChatGPT type of story. This is not personalized to me. It is still generic for learning and training purposes, right? But it's the structure that you need to really understand what this project is doing. So it depends, Summer.
Yeah, thanks. But I don't think it's also wise to say that because it's going to bring more questions.
Why
If
to
like
say
we-
what?
No, like if I'm to emphasize on, okay, let's say there's a system migration, then maybe questions can start arising.
Why
from
not?
that.
Like, yeah, good question. Like, good question. If you know system migration, which all of us should
Yeah.
know, any question they ask is to gain more. Is good because that means they are interested in knowing more.
But you rightly said we should avoid data
I
and
said
system
avoid if like
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people say data migration, and you now ask what, like, I said if you don't know how to talk about and describe data don't say it. If you know, it's your strength. Like, you need to actually all know, because most system you need to do some form of migration if you're changing or replacing something most of the time. So it's very useful to know. And it's like like all of us are immigrant here, I think, with no fail, right? So and I've already used that explanation. Like, we are moving from one place to another. Is your system also migrate like a move from one? But what are we moving from system? Is it that we're replacing the system, which is movement migrating the system, or we are migrating data? The data is like depending on the system, customer record, things like that, financials, details, all of those things. We are moving it from one system to the other, and we want to make sure it's accurate. So those are the things. So data migration in general is not a hard concept. Just think about, oh, I'm an immigrant, I moved from somewhere to. If somebody have to move here and you don't have any roadmap of prosperity, people will not move to Australia, right? It's the same thing. If you move data from one system, you must make sure that that data in the new system is accurate. The integrity is there. So there's a process to make sure that that happens. Let's read more on that. For the sake of time, I can't.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I asked if we're moving a data, is it our own developers that is it from our own side, or they will be the ones to move it? Like I need
Who
to
are the
understand.
day?
That's
Yeah.
the new vendors. Are they the ones to move the data?
So
Is
it depends, but think about it. Like if the vendors, right? It depends really. The vendors might provide support in telling you, oh, these are the fields, this is how this you can migrate, these are the APIs you need, or whatever approach they can tell you. But majority of the time you might not want to entrust them with your data like that. So because again, there's the issue of data integrity and but again, it depends. But a company might say, well, we are implementing your system. We want a package where you do the migration as well. The concept is still the same. Whoever is doing it, just know that the decision can change depending on the context, what the company wants at that particular time. They might not have any developer or technical people in the company, and they just want a solution that covers all of those things, right? But again, that company will require some documentation from the current company that you have their system, because to move that data out, or they need to know how their system works. So there's collaboration across board. So it's a very fluid process, but there's no one size fit all, right? Anybody can do migration so long they know what to do. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. We have 10 minutes. So basically, the next thing is the tools used. Here, they are familiar to CRM, but because of the context, the financial system, ERPs. So I'm sure you guys got this as assessment. So if you're hearing for the first time, go and do the assessment again, and you'll be fine. And KPIs, I think we've hammered on that. So you can see some of the KPIs that we seek to achieve. I'm hammering on KPI just to also help you start to talk about your outcome, project outcome, in a very succinct way. So remember where we started from. When you start talking about your project, tell them the problem or objective. Talk about the things you do as a BA, and then the outcome. Your outcome can be some of these KPIs that you achieved at the end of the project, and for how long was the project. So refer to KPIs and then the outcome. You can see it. Now, bonus, because I'm generous. Should I use this? No. So I kind of like talked about this. So this is my experience with University of Queensland, right? So again, you can see this is not developer, whatever. It's standardization of policy guidelines and operational procedures for the university. So basically, they wanted to standardize all their policy, put it in a centralized repo, for system that have right level of permission and access. So a student should not go and be accessing policies that are related to maybe Senate, like confidential. The policy have different. So policy that guides admission, okay, maybe students should have access to that. Policy that guides recruitment, the student does not have any business there. So there's that part of workflow, permission, access that needs to be achieved. But you can see the problem statement here. The university faces challenge with it. So they basically, this is all English. What we are saying here is that the university does not have an efficient way of managing their policy document. A policy document are sensitive document, which I've just explained. Not just anybody should just access policies anyhow without permission and the right access. So what are some of the objectives? You can see it here. We want to make sure the workflow is done correctly. We want to know some of the system requirement. I explained this earlier as well. We want to standardize procedures. We want to implement a new system. And I think I explained this as well. So we can refer to that part. That was some of the objectives that we needed to achieve. And I told you that I wasn't working with developers. So we're working with vendors for implementation. So some of the requirements that we're able to gather from stakeholders based on their need relate to this vendor, they will implement it. And yeah, so some of the tools, familiar tools, timeline, KPIs as well, and then the outcome. So this is another measure. This is another measure. By now we know what measure is about. So this is a bank, right? So one of the big four bank is trying to merge, and want to implement an HRS. I'm sure we've all heard of this system before, right? So we wanted to, in merger, it can be, we've talked about that it can be a system. It can be systems. Here is a system, HRS, so that the HR process is unified. All right, and then problem statement here. Are we all together? You guys
Yes.
not turning on your camera just drained me today, guys. It's a draining so just to round up, again, it follows the same theme that we've talked about extensively. So the problem here, you can see the company had a rigid HRS system. So they want to move to a more scalable one. And then this was the team. So here we have developers, project duration, pain point. We did some vendor selection here, and then there's some conflict, stakeholders, call out, talked about methodology use.
Please, can you explain the problem?
This problem,
Yes.
we have an HR system, right, that is not fit for purpose,
Okay.
right? That's the problem.
So they won't ask us to shed more light on it if you say this.
No.
You just
Yeah, I expect you to be able to shed more light, because fit for purpose means it's not working for us, like it's not meeting our requirement. So you can create a story around it. Can be that, oh, so we're a big bank, we have maybe 3,000 employees, right? Or 1,000 employee. Onboarding is very critical part to that process. We need to be able to manage our employees, make sure we know who is going on leave, we know they have where to log it, the onboarding is smooth, performance is log, all of those things, because not just a small company, right? So HR is a very critical part. Now we have an HRS that is not going to be fit for purpose in the context of merger and acquiring. Remember, I just talked about merger. So two banks are merging. We need to get an HRS that would help us manage that employee workflow, recruitment, onboarding, managing the employee life cycle, basically. So big enough problem. So you work with these guys. This was project duration. Some of the pain points during the project. By the way, this is not my own experience. It's one of our former student that did this. I thought it was good to add it to. So yeah, and this is what we're saying. So like after today now, I expect that you can come up with something like this and talk about. You see that the format is even different, but like there's a bit more call out there. So I expect all of you to go and work and try to come up with something that you can definitely use for your interview. So this person called out the pain point, some of the issues. And when you say, oh, we face challenges in vendor selection, of course, you need to be able to buttress that when you're having that conversation, right? You don't need to call it out here, but, you know. And then methodology. This person also added methodology, which was very good. Artifact produce. Again, you see that, and these are very important question that they ask in interview. They want to know like what kind of things you've delivered, right? So you see this person went and added it because we just say it, or you see how you can improve on something they give you. So don't go and go copy this template and say, Noah said these are the only things that we should just focus on. You can be creative and add things that will definitely add value as you do more interview prep people. So we called out some of the artifact, which was good. Testing approach, called it out. Stakeholders, you know, person wanted to just have a clear roadmap and how any angle they ask me. If they ask me question about my stakeholder, I know some of the things I will say. If they ask me something about testing, I know what I will say. If they ask me something about the methodology, I know what methodology. So it has fleshed this out in more detail for our own use. So you can see sprint cycle, you even talked about our approach, right? You can see all the tools she used: gap analysis, PESTEL, feasibility study, understanding company strategy, you know. So yeah, in this ebook, I'm going to cite her. Right? So called out sprint cycle as well. Requirement gathering techniques that she used. Yeah? Called out MVP. So literally, just think about the value, right? If they ask her something, oh, what was your MVP? She already she has it. Like if she's doing an interview now, and maybe she has 2 screens, right? Because she has done such a detailed work, even if she forgets, like in that moment, she knows she has it somewhere, just scroll. She doesn't need to read it. She doesn't need to scroll and flash. You just see it and oh, you know. Or when you're using your technique that Tayo always tells you, right? Where you say, oh, I can't remember. Like you're trying to buy yourself some minute, yeah? You can just scroll and then it comes back. That is the value of doing this and be deliberate about it. So the phases, again, challenges encountered. So pretty much tools used, project outcome, post-implementation. See, she called out everything she even did post-implementation. So if they're asking you, okay, so how are you supporting this product when it went live? Right? You're not going to be like, oh, no, I did not say this in our project review. Oh my God. Noah has killed me. So it is not Noah. I'm just giving you a guide, right? Your business analyst should be able to find answer. So this is showing initiative and think about all the things. To be honest, if you have a good understanding of all these things, objective of your project, problem statement, team composition, timeline, pain point, methodology, artifact, test approach, stakeholder management, approach for your own business analysis and things you did, sprint cycle, requirement gathering technique, MVP, project phase, challenges encounter, tools, project outcome post implementation. Tell me what, like 90% of what you want or what they'll be asking you revolves around this. Revolves around this, really. So if you can all do this and master it, you go to any interviews and you not have a pinch of problem. You would not. And that's what I need you guys to do. So we've talked about a lot today, but I just wanted to spotlight this. Because trust me, guys, most of your, I think at least I'm happy to say 70% of your interview questions is here. Then you add your tell me about myself and why you're that's like 85%. So you go to interviews knowing at least 85% of the question. Like, why should you be nervous? I don't like learning management system a lot, but this is another project. Oh, in the context of this project, it was a very important project again. Silas, your hand is up.
Yeah, I have a question about that example that you just gave. Could you go to the challenges encountered and
Yeah,
explain how to answer those?
yeah, interview me at 9:05 in the night. Did not fear God, this man. I want to round up this class.
Yeah, because this
So who
question
can
is just
answer this question? We've gone through this now, Silas, in interview prep. So team conflict. It depends on the conflict, right? So I mean,
And yeah, apart from that, when they ask you a question like, what challenges did you encounter in your project? Again, remember, don't just listen to a question and then just jump straight into it. Like, oh, there was team conflict. I remember we encountered issues with vendor selection. You first start by saying, oh, that's very interesting. Like, as you know, with every project comes their own challenges. On this project that I worked on, we had the unique challenge of vendor selection. I remember during the vendor selection process, we had to do like a proof of concept and go through multiple vendors to actually understand if they actually provide, what it is that actually, meets the project or the product requirements, right? And yeah, you just buff it up a little bit, right? All of those different points. But the most important thing is highlight the points that I want to talk about. Romance the question when you go into it. Don't just jump into it straight and say, oh, we had issues with team conflicts or vendor selection and all that. Just romance the question a little bit and say, yeah, every project has its own problem. And we faced several challenges on the project. Stakeholder management was one of it. And yeah, that's it. Does that make sense, Silas? Well, I'm not sure if you are wanting to hear something different from that.
I just looked at these challenges encountered and they look really a lot. But yeah, I think I should just measure on just one of them.
make it your own. You don't need to copy this one, but
Exactly. Depending on the project you're talking about, right? If it's for example a merger and acquisition project will have its own unique issue, its own unique problems. Getting stakeholders, SMEs, subject matter experts in both organizations could be a really big challenge, right? People that understand whatever systems they're actually trying to, bring together or consolidate. right? Does that make sense? So again, understand your project and try to identify what's really unique about your project and what challenge do you think, is something common that could be associated with the project that you selected, right?
All right. So
And
so
yeah,
basically,
try not to interview at 9 past
oh my
9
God,
p.m.
this this man wants to start interviewing me at night
He
after
said
talking
we can
for
call him at 2 a.m. He'll wake up. So we're just starting.
yeah, but I did not say you should do that. Are you my wife that you want to call me only yeah, you can call me. Leave me a message. I'll respond. Not call me. Okay, yeah. So basically, don't worry, we still get a lot of opportunity to rehearse different answers for that, even in interview prep. But yeah, last call out here, learning management system. So have a read. It's the same approach from the same person as well. Really going into details on the different things that you really cover in a project. So yeah, non-functional requirement, called it out, high level, project outcome, tools, issues encounter. Even getting stakeholder to come for your meetings, for your interview or workshop can be challenging. I told you earlier, I work with people in different time zones, right? So sometimes you want to have a session, you need to think about, like when will be a good time, check calendar, start to, it can be an issue. So, and talk about that. You can talk about,
No, can I just add something? So I just want to talk generally about even your project on an interview. So honestly, the longest interview you ever attend will probably be maybe an hour. You actually have interviews that will last for 35 minutes, 45 minutes, right? And guess what? These people love to talk. So out of 1 hour, 45 or 45 minutes, they're probably chatting like 15, 20 minutes of the time. So it means if you're going to be talking during an interview, you're probably going to be talking 30 minutes out of the total time of the interview. Your project, you don't need to know it, you don't need to know all of in details, all the activities that actually went or transpired on the project, right? You just need to know your project at a very high level. And these things that Noah, has actually highlighted are the things that you need to know. You don't need to know it, so in depth. Remember, the assignment is just getting yourself in the door. That's the assignment. And if you want to achieve that, trust me, you don't need to go in depth into understanding all of this. Just understand the high level of your project. Like Noah said, the objective, the problem statement, what your role was, you get at all of the different components. And trust me, you'll smash any interview. No interviewer is going to keep you there for 2 hours or 1 hour, 30 minutes. All you just need is the high level and go there, dish it out, and you get an interview. Trust me. All right, back to you now. Sorry for that.
okay, all right. So it's the same thing, guys. So let's just go and think about it, and come up with something like this in more detail. So you have your weapon to go to that war. So this final one is also like implementing an LMS, which is a learning management system for an insurance company. And what is the objective, right? So maybe they've seen that, employees are not improving, they are not doing their work efficiently, right? Maybe they are encountering issues, they are not developing. If you're not developing, acquiring new skill on the job, what that means for the company is company will be regressing as well, because they are not growing. They are not something that should take you 2 hours because of your skill is not sharp. You're taking 1 day, 2 days. So it will impact productivity, and every serious company wants an LMS as well. So that's what they are trying to do here. Again, methodology, timeline, initiation. So get a hang of what product discovery is. Like, what are the things you do during product discovery? I see that asked a lot in interview session. So you can see discovery phase, right? We're trying to know, what do we need to do? Why do we need to do this thing, right? So she's saying that they did that on this project, the objective, the kind of content that will be on this LMS, and all of that. Again, artifact, requirement station method, right? So they chose an LMS. So you can see this is a form of vendor selection. They did what? They examined and compared several LMS platforms, considering the needs of the company based on project objective. So they did all of these things. Their approach is to use this, and that, right? Sprint. See the cadence, 2-week sprint. Gap analysis, right? They did design and mock-up workshop. They did migration. Yeah. So they work with developer. This is the MVP. And these are the things that are on the dashboard. So it's not like all of these things you say. By the way, you don't say all of this. I think we've established that you don't say all of these things in your tell me about yourself question. You just have all of this information, at least at this level, for your interview. So if they ask you, oh, tell us what were the MVP of this application, you know what to say. If they say, oh, what's your team composition, okay, what are some of the key requirements? You can still refer to this MVP part. Okay, what's your role as a business analyst? You can talk about this, twist it anyhow you want. Talk about some of the things you did here. Talk about how you use elicitation technique. So there's your base is covered basically.
Also, what she's done is she's followed the SDLC in case
Yeah.
someone says, tell me, how do you support a project throughout its life cycle? She's already done that because she wants to be able to speak to it at every stage, anywhere the question comes from. Because if you think about it theoretically, that is what happens. If you know end to end what your role is during those different stages, you can pretty much answer any of their questions. And by the way, the owner of these two projects, she followed the same guideline which we provided. She did 3 interviews and got 2 jobs, did 1 job for 2 weeks and left that one for the other contract which she got because it was closer to her house. It had every offer. It had all the things she was looking for in terms of flexibility, and it had more money. So she was prepared for the interview. It was this or nothing for her. So essentially, your level of preparation as well is very important.
Yeah.
You want to go there with half-baked when they say what happens in software development life cycle. You're starting with initiation, and then you go to maintenance, and then you come back to design, and then you move to the requirement gathering, and then you're just all over the shop. No structure.
So yeah.
So that's what she's done.
So you can see the structure, knowing the objective first, methodology, project initiation, the requirement gathering, but big blah 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 blah. All right, I think we'll stop here by force. So thank you everybody. Any last question? Please, I don't want to see fear anymore, guys. We've provided context. Do this right now. Work on this, send it for review, then start to rehearse, practice it. You go to interview and just talk, what are you saying? Like you dish it out. You dish it out like a boss, and you walk out with an offer, and we celebrate. Just call you to the podcast. Come and share, come and inspire. You're earning tech money now. Come on. Tech can change your life. Remember, like for the better, more flexibility, more enjoyment, not just monetarily. Like, it's not like tech people are the most like richest people in the world. It just gives you a lot of flexibility, really. You can work 30 minutes in a day, and that's it on some days. Today, I worked very hard. I worked like 4 hours, and I was annoyed because in the last 1 month, I've not worked 4 hours before, like for my company. So my point is, you have so much flexibility. That time that I just really want to see you guys shine in a few weeks, and it's doable. Just go straight 2 weeks. This is what you're saying, you're practicing. Oh my God, the upgrade, the opportunity. And I'm not trying to be inspirational, trust me. I'm just practical. As a realist, it is doable. Go and use this guide. Formulate your own. This is already answer for you. Just formulate what do you feel comfortable talking about based on what we've talked about today. We'll upload this session. You can rewatch, internalize it a bit more. Then formulate what you're comfortable talking about in the project setting. And then, yeah, should be able to do well in any interview going forward. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you got value from this session. I'll see you around, and have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.